We have been talking about nuclear weapons all day. Nuclear weapons are quite difficult sometimes, and we have been talking about the horrors and the technical side in some ways. We haven't really talked about what they do to people directly, and the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons. And because in some conversations around the world, we sort of switched the focus of nuclear weapons away from security, away from deterrence, into the direct impact that they have on people. We put the human first. Because of that, most of the world's governments are now started negotiations. They started at the end of March, and they did it because they're going to make nuclear weapons illegal. And at the center of that are people. And it's to prevent ever seeing another mushroom cloud. It's to prevent ever having another person that is burned or blown up, whose family is scarred for generations by nuclear weapons. And it's a ban, and not everybody's on board with the ban, and that's okay. Not everybody has to agree with everything, right? But most of the countries in the world thinks nuclear weapons are unnecessary for security, that they should be illegal, just like other weapons of mass destruction, biological weapons, chemical weapons. They're illegal, comprehensively and thoroughly. They're still out there. They're not all gone, but they are illegal. We took a moral stance and put that moral stance into law, and that's amazing. And that is happening now. And it's why even after a day of really I get a little overwhelmed thinking about nuclear weapons. I got inspired in the making the connections between climate and nuclear weapons workshop I was in over lunch. I kind of got lifted up again. But it can be really hard. But I want to share with you an enthusiasm for making any inhumane, indiscriminate weapon that is by design set up to violate international humanitarian law, by design. Make that illegal, because it's going to happen. But the nuclear-armed country is not necessarily going to join on, and the United States is not very good at signing up to new treaties, especially new treaties that make weapons illegal. So we have to think about what we can do about that, right? So that's what I want to talk to you about, things we can do, because I like to do stuff. Doing stuff makes change happen. And I'm going to come at you with a couple of different ways we can do things. One thing is divestment. And I write this report every year. Sorry, I'm going to lean over you. I have some copies, not a lot of copies, but please, you take them home so I don't have to. I write this report every year, do this update. It's called Don't Bank on the Bomb. And what it does is it looks at the 27 companies that are most heavily involved in the production of nuclear weapons, gives information about their contracts, how much money they're making to make these horrible weapons, and in this handy-dandy table says, oh, it's hard to do this with one hand, shows who's investing in those companies. Now, this is where you can do something, you can personally take action on the issue of nuclear weapons. Because you probably, let me ask this question. Is there anybody here who does not have a bank account? Okay, everybody got a bank account in this room. All right, all of you then have something you can do. And you can contact your bank and say, hey, are you investing in nuclear weapon producers? And if you are, please stop. And if you're not, do you have a policy that says that you're not? But it's a really easy thing you can do. I use e-banking all the time because I'm like that on my phone. And I have tried and sent messages to my bank through my phone, just to say, hey, are you connected to nuclear weapon producers? So for those of you who believe in e-banking and who trust the unsecured MIT network, you can do that. Otherwise, you can wait till you get home, or you can walk into your local bank branch. Ask the manager, hey, does this bank invest in nuclear weapon producers? The manager's not going to know the answer to that question. The manager is, however, going to know he potentially has a public relations nightmare on their hands, because nobody wants to be associated with the production of weapons designed to violate the fundamental principles of international humanitarian law. So everybody can do this, and it's pretty straightforward. And there's a lot of examples on our website of letters you can send if you don't want to just send them a quickie message. We also found some great success with this, and a couple of people saw an article in a newspaper in Sweden and started a little Facebook, like they started asking questions on Facebook of their bank. That bank now has a pretty good policy on doesn't invest in any nuclear weapon producers. It was Swedbank, because they've freaked out because it's a public relations nightmare. So that's something to do. You probably have, a lot of you have pension funds. You can ask the same questions of your pension funds, and I hope you have insurance, because insurance is important. But you can ask the same questions for your insurance agents or your insurance companies. All of these are potential investors in the nuclear weapons production complex. And you can find out, if they are investing using our report, or you can just ask them directly, because it's quite cool. And they'll answer you, which is nice. It's nice to see, and nice to see something that's very winnable in this. That's something you can personally do. Now, if you want to work together with other people, because that's always very good, there's ways to take this issue around divestment and take it to the city level. Here in Cambridge, there was a great example of this. It was announced last year, and Mayor Simmons referred to it this morning. There was a resolution passed in the City Council to make sure that the City Pension Fund is not invested in nuclear weapon producers. Since that happened, other cities are looking to do the same thing. And Tacoma Park, Maryland, which is, it's right next to DC, Tacoma Park, they have this nuclear weapon-free zone status. A lot of cities do. It was mentioned before, Congresswoman Barbara Lee mentioned she was part of the Sane Freeze campaign. That got set up nuclear weapon-free zones all over the country. Tacoma Park's this nuclear weapon-free zone city. They decided to move their bank. So they have a huge amount of money in their bank. And they're moving their bank, they're changing banks to a bank that has no relationship with the nuclear weapons industry. Because if they stick with the bank that they have, which is SunTrust Financial, just for your info, they're worried that they'll be violating their own principles around this nuclear weapon-free zone status. That's super cool. And it happened because a couple of people got together, they brought it to the City Council, they pushed for it, and they said, we need to stick with our policies. And that's something, folks here can do as well. Or if you're in Cambridge, I guess it's getting in touch with people who are in other cities, getting them on board with it. This can be taken to the state level. I heard this afternoon about legislation pending here in Massachusetts about divesting from fossil fuels. Divesting from fossil fuels is a win for us. It's a win for all of us. When our colleagues have success, we have success. And supporting that kind of legislation is something that I think we should all get on board with. And it's a way to elevate the issue and to elevate the tool of moving money as a tool of power. It's a way to empower us and to put it in things that we need. And there are examples of entire countries that have national laws saying they will not invest in nuclear weapon producers, like New Zealand, or war materials at all, like Switzerland or Liechtenstein. They're not the best pieces of law ever written, but they're on the books, and the banks and companies operating in those countries have to abide by them. And it's just good to know that this is possible, because it is possible, and it should give us a sense of hope. And with that, I want to end on a couple of small things. One is I get hope when I'm surrounded by people who are enthusiastic and excited and share my passions. And I know the Women's March to Ban the Bomb that's going to take place on the 17th of June in New York is going to be full of that. It's amazing to see women organizing differently, and I've seen that this year. And I'm a longtime WILPF member, and will be a WILPF member for as long as I can. Well, I have a lifetime membership, so, as long as I live. And it's great to see WILPF really taking the lead in a public mobilization in something that's moving. Thousands of people have expressed interest, and I hope you come and join us in New York. And the last thing I want to say is my thanks, because Future of Life, MIT, the Massachusetts Peace Action, the amazing organizers that put together this conference, that brought people here together, that gave us a space to speak with one another, connect with one another. I really want to thank you. I don't want to say next year in the conference program, can you give us a little bit more time to talk to each other? So that we can keep working together. And with that, I'll end, and I want to thank you all. Please take my papers so that I don't take them home. And thank you again. Okay.